That came way off the top of the face.
Yeah, a little high.
So what I love about that though is if that's the low spin miss with this, that's so much better for so many people, where the other two dip below, and that's scary, right? Like you dip below that 2000 mark and that could be tough. This is very clearly designed to try to help people mitigate that.
All right, everyone, we're back at it here at GOLFTEC headquarters, and we've got Jake Morrow back in the building.
Yeah,
Jake,
man, happy to join you again.
Being back out. We had a lot of fun last time, but we're proud to talk about some new releases today, especially from Titleist with the new GT line of metal woods.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drivers, fairways. Going to focus on the drivers today.
Yep.
We've got our GT4, GT3, and our GT2 replacing the TSR line, which I will say, Jake, I was a huge fan of. That was the first Titleist driver I had in my bag in almost 20 years.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I think that the Titleist team, when they came with TSR, like they tried a lot harder to compete with those woods than they had in the past, maybe. And I think like there was obviously a big story behind that. The content that they produced around the TS launch, like all that stuff with Spieth, was really cool to see, and how that influenced TSR as well. But these seem, and this is my very first time seeing these.
Yeah, we literally took them out of the plastic this morning.
Yeah, like I don't have the background knowledge on this, so this is you teaching me about them at the same time. I can say visually, very different than TSR. I think pictures don't do the differences justice. And technology-wise, it looks like they rethought a lot of stuff with all three of the heads. So it's gonna be really interesting.
Yeah, and I think interesting point you make, again, literally just unwrap these. I haven't hit them yet, Jake hasn't hit them yet, so I'm really interested to get your feedback, because what I thought about the TSR compared to prior ones is it sounded and felt more modern than maybe some prior generations. I thought usually their drivers perform well, but didn't have the sound and feel of modern.
Absolutely.
Hopefully with GT they keep that. So let's just get into some of the basics of all the GTs, then we'll talk about specifics and have Jake do some testing. So for starters, GT, it's generational technology. It's really what Titleist is focused on with these. Now what that means, really the main things you're going to hear them talking about is going to be what they're calling their thermoform crown, pretty much thinning out some crown, using that material to then redistribute weight, which then comes into our next talking point is split mass technology. You'll hear that one. And really that's one of the biggest stories I think you will hear with GT is how they've positioned the weight to move the CG low, and then in most of the heads forward, which as we've talked about in the past, low and forward usually means lower spinning, which I hopefully we'll find out today.
Hopefully.
And then last piece, speed ring VFT, it's just variable face thickness. They're just going for drivers that are going to go really, really far, maintain ball speeds in center and off center. So let's talk about GT4 is the one in your hands first. So why don't you set that down, tell me what you think about it, and then we'll talk about some of the MOI and CG measurements that we always like to talk about. Yeah,
so the 4 series in Titleist has always been my most attractive one. I always love how it looks the most. I haven't fit into one just because of the player it's designed for is not me, but they look beautiful. Like all the 4 models always have. This one's very similar, more of that kind of compact pear-shaped design. I am, right off the bat though, you can definitely see the face more than any previous generation or really anything else that I've seen. I'm staring at whatever this face texture is. It appears to me that there's a little bit more bulge and roll than maybe Titleist is used to. I like that because that means Titleist is trying to do something different than what they've done, but it's definitely a visual that is, it doesn't scream Titleist, but in the best way possible. Like I think they're really trying to push that.
And you're right, they did change up the face graphics a little bit to make, again, visually a little more appealing, a little easier to aim. So why don't you go ahead and hit one, then let's talk about, again, just your thoughts on it, as well as some of the CG MOI. And again, this is not meant to be a fitting. We're just setting these all up at 9 degrees. We'll use the same shaft. Really just want to give you guys an apples to apples comparison. Again, first one I've heard of this, sounded pretty nice, and I will.
Yeah, it sounded great.
I will share a similar story. I really wanted to get fit into the TSR 4 last year, rather, and same thing. It's just for again my game, I needed a little bit more forgiveness. It was super low spinning though. But first shot, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I will say so. Where I know I hit that, which was super low on the face, that came out way better than a TSR 4 would have for sure. Like that saved me a little bit. It definitely added spin. Like obviously low on the face is going to do that, but if I hit that same point of contact with a TSR 4, I don't think I get that result. We're one swing in, so that might be a stretch right now, but that's extremely intriguing to me right now.
Yeah, and then comparing again CG MOI that we always talk about in the past with our GT4 with the heavy weight in the front, so even 11 and a 3 gram weight. With the 11 gram weight in the front, we see MOIs around 4,100, so it's really low. MOI is just a measure of forgiveness, so it's not going to be the only piece. Move that heavy weight in the back, it's at about 4,500, so it's a little more reasonable level of forgiveness there. And then we see your CG on all of these is slightly into the toe, talking millimeter and a half too. So I wouldn't call them fade bias, but it's more towards the toe than it is towards the heel. And then CG is about 1.5 millimeters above center. So it should definitely be a spin killer if that is what you're looking for. GT4 should do the trick for you. But let's, again, get more than one swing on it.
Yeah, let's see.
And then just for comparison's sake, we do have the heavy weight in the front, just to see exactly where that spin gets.
That's an impressive launch too for something that's designed to stay down and kind of hurt the spin a little bit. Especially I've only got this in 9. I've been playing 10.5 degree heads for a little bit now.
Yeah.
But like coming out at 14 that's actually really impressive. I love that shot shape. Both of them have been the same. The first one was a little bit lower on the face for sure, but again, right around 3,000 for where I hit that is really, really good.
Yeah, if you're hitting a little fade, keeping it under 3,000 RPM with a 14 launch, again, for one, it's going to be in the fairway, and it's going to be long enough to get you around, most courses. That
absolutely.
Let's do one more, then we'll change it out, and we'll go to our I'm going to keep calling it the TSR, I know. The GT3. Nicely done. When we grab that club from you, and that would work all day. Tell me about that one.
So there's the middle of the face. Try to launch it because it's gonna not spin, right? And so for me, at my playing ability, that's why I've never fit into the 4 series. Because if I don't launch that at 16, that ball's toast. And I will say, there's no chance there.
This is the one that I was most interested in seeing you, just from the little bit we've worked together in the past. I know spin's generally not a problem for you, so I was curious to see what you would do on a well-struck shot. So GT4, definitely going to be a spin killer if that is what you need.
Absolutely.
So now with our GT3, we have an 8 gram movable weight, and this is probably the driver that's changed the most of all of them compared to TSR. In the past, the TSR3 had the weight track in the back. They moved it now more to the front, in an effort to, again, lower as well as move that CG forward. Should definitely be a lower spin variant of the TSR, I would suspect. And then as far as CG movement, this is our only one that we see horizontal adjustability. So we see roughly 4 millimeters of swing, heel to toe, so you do get lots of adjustability heel to toe. And then we only have the CG, again, on this one, it is about 1.75, 2 millimeters above center, so it should still be very low spinning. And MOI coming in at about 4,200, so it's definitely on the lower MOI side. Again, MOI is just one component of forgiveness, so I wouldn't call it unforgiving just yet.
I would say putting this down, so GT3 to GT4 looks way more similar than TSR3 to TSR4 did.
Okay.
Those two heads seemed like they were very, very different. This, to me, it almost looks like a GT3.5.
Okay.
Where they're taking some design cues from the 4 and trying to make it a little more compact, a little more bulbous than flat. It's the same thing though. You can see the face really well, so this will be
I'd be
interesting
to see the numbers, and we'll go ahead and hit one, then I'll kind of give you my take as well.
Oh, that's not going to work.
That's all right. Yeah, we gotta read the mishits too. So the way that I kind of look at the 4 and the 3 is the 4 is your you basically have your adjustability for spin. You want low spin or crazy low spin.
Yeah.
And then I think with the 3 you have adjustability horizontally with still low spin. So it's almost like very similar drivers. One just allows you to have horizontal adjustability, while one gives you more of the vertical adjustability. Yeah,
I think that's an awesome way to look at it. Because again,
they look very similar when you put them back.
Yeah, they look really similar, especially compared to the last generation. If you hit something that high on the face, though, it doesn't really matter.
That's right, we got lots of mulligans in the building.
Jeez.
We'll pull on that one. It's all good. Nice ball speeds though.
Yeah, out of the middle, that felt great. This one feels a little softer than 4 does.
Just off the face, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can feel a little bit more compression.
Let's get one more, and then we'll move into the GT2, which, at least I know through our doors, is probably going to be the one that we see students fitting into the most. Again, pretty straight ball flight. Obviously, it's a little bit of a leftward start line, but we see, again, on that shot, very similar on the low spin that we saw compared to the 4.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I like what you're saying about, you know, if you need to help somebody move left to right, like I think there's an obvious adjustment for me on the 3 right now. Mm-hmm. I think if you need to move somebody left to right, I love this.
Yep.
If you need to move somebody up and down, I think TSR4 is gonna be great. But that's an option that they didn't have in previous generations. Like somebody deciding between 3 and 4 was not a thing. It was one or the other. So that's kind of cool.
Yes, I would totally agree. I think, again, I was using TSR3 for quite a while, and it was pretty much a no-brainer. You didn't really have that option where, to your point, I believe a lot of players, if you're fitting into the 4, you could probably very easily fit into the 3 and probably vice versa, just depending on exactly what you're trying to achieve. All right, so now let's move into our GT2. This is, again, probably going to be the one that we see people getting fit into in our centers as well as just on the course the most. And let's talk, I guess, some of the real specifics of this one. So in our GT2, we have an MOI coming in at around 4,800. So anything 48 to 5,000, that's pretty much where your forgiving drivers are today. What I like about this one though is in the past, when we see drivers around 5,000, we're probably talking more 3-4 millimeters of CG height above center. This one's only about 2.5, so it's pretty low for the forgiveness. And then we have, again, CG like ever so slightly towards the toe. I'd still call it neutral, but if you have to pick one versus the other, it's definitely a little more on the toe side. And tell me about that one. This is the one you feel like looks a little bit different compared to the 3 or the 4?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a lot deeper. There's more mass towards the toe side, which makes a lot of sense for, you know, for this player. Mm-hmm. It still is, it's so different than TSR. I don't think the pictures that everybody has seen has done that justice, how different these look at address and behind the ball. Because TSR2 to me was a little bit spaceshipy, like it was a little big. This to me is more closer to like TSR3. Okay. Whereas those two were very, very similar and it was like a 3.5 and a 4. It's an interesting decision by them, but it's the same thing. You can see that face. That's the craziest part to this, is being able to see that face and see those lines is not what I expected when I walked in today.
Yeah, it still has a little bit of a confidence there. It makes it a little easier to aim. I know some other manufacturers have done some similar things to the face, and I appreciated it because it made aiming the face that much easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sounds nice on that one. So again, even a little fade, still keeping it under 3,000, and again, set at 9 degrees and just the standard A1 setting.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Cool, let's get another one. A nice one. I think the only shot we saw, maybe that very first one's the only one that crept over 3,000. So again, nice high launch.
Yeah, that's one that came off. I mean, that came way off the top of the face.
Yeah, a little high.
So what I love about that though is if that's the low spin miss with this, that's so much better for so many people, where the other two dip below, and that's scary, right? Like you dip below that 2,000 mark and that could be tough. This is very clearly designed to try to help people mitigate that.
Yep, I think that'll definitely be the one that finds its way into bags for, again, most people probably watching, as well as most of our students walking in our center. For one, you just have, again, still a high level of MOI and forgiveness, so you do get your forgiveness directionally as well as some ball speed, but then you still do get very low spin for an MOI of close to 5,000. So again, there's very few people that walk in our doors that we say they need to spin it more. It happens, but most people were trying to reduce spin. I think this entire line is awesome at this. Some just better than others. And again, still saw pretty good forgiveness across the board, even with some lower MOI. So I think you probably can't go wrong with any of them. But if you've liked TSR or any other kind of Titleist driver in the past, I think you definitely owe it yourself to check out GT.
Absolutely.
Best place to do that. GOLFTEC. Log on to golftec.com. Find a local coach near you. Jake, appreciate it again.
Thanks for having me, man. Yeah, absolutely.